Hello, everybody. Welcome back. And this is part 2 of the love language video series. And here we're going to talk about emotional blockages in the birth chart that could repress your moon from acting in the normal way or the normal archetype of your moon. I hope you appreciate this series. This is from my own personal research, so you're not going to find this exact content anywhere else. This is also from a deep underground investigation that I did with a lot of people that I know. So thank you to everybody who have participated to my research. And I believe that knowing about this information could really help you into finding the right ways to address it in order to heal, grow, and stop acting out of the same, let's say, distorted patterns that you have in relationships, perhaps. Because I found that the love languages in the previous video, if you checked out the part 1 of the video, and if you didn't, go check out this part 2, because those work hand in hand together. So we talked about how your love languages in romantic relationships are, in my opinion, very much connected to the moon. This is what I've seen from my research, my deep investigation. And the moon in astrology connects us to our childhood experiences, connects us to our primary caregivers, and oftentimes it's the mother, and sometimes it can be the father or some other caregiver, but it's going to be very much connected to the mother relationships too. So we're going to see that with the moon. And if you saw in the first part of the video, for instance, that your love languages didn't connect with the archetype of your moon, so the sign of your moon or the house placement, it's probably because what I noticed in my research is that if you have an afflicted moon, and I'm going to show you what it is and how you can spot that, it means that your moon is working in a different way. So it's probably repressing some part of its expression. So, and of course, you can also check your chart. I very much encourage you to do so, but also the chart of your partner if you do have one, or any person of interest close to you. Okay, our moon, as I said, is connected to our primary caregivers. So this is how, and our primary relationship is with our mother. So the relationship to the mother determines how we're going to bond with other people in general in our lives. So this, how we're going to bond emotionally. So this is the moon. And if you have a moon that's what we call in astrology afflicted, that's expressing itself in a more difficult way, that's not your fault. I just want to say here, first and foremost, the moon is what we've inherited from our early environment, from childhood, from our caregivers, our parents, even our ancestry. And often also, it can also be past lives. So as you can see, there's a myriad of factors. So the moon in your birth chart, this is, yes, your responsibility to work with it, because of course this is your life, and I want the best for you, as probably you want the best for yourself too. So of course you're going to be responsible to do self-growth, do healing about that, but the state of your moon that you were born in is not your fault, okay? So I just want to make that obvious so you don't feel any shame regarding the conditions that you've lived in. These were not your fault. So, and of course, if you did have like a repressed moon, which is something that I find very often. So again, this is not anything, let's say, to be ashamed of, because you would be surprised like how often we see that. And I just did like a very much underground investigation with the people around me, and I know a lot of people who have afflicted moons. And when I know their personal history, I can understand like how well it connects with what they have been living. So this is why I can deliver this information to you, and I hope it's going to be of any value to you. So first, let's go ahead. You're going to need for this video, of course, your moon sign and placement, and then I'm going to show you how to determine if it's an afflicted moon or not. So do check out the previous video if you need help with you're casting your own birth chart. So I use astro.com, or any free website can do the job. And then I'm going to need you to look at what's around your moon and give it a large orb. So not just like a few degrees like you would usually do in astrology. I would give a rather large orb, because this is what I've observed with the moon. It can really absorb a lot of energy from its surrounding, even if it's not so close. So this is my birth chart, and in that case, I would take like all of those planets into consideration. A little bit less if they're in another sign. So for instance, like here, Capricorn, you could write them. But of course, here, since we're talking about emotional blockages and afflicted moon, we're going to talk about more of the disruptive energy that can be around our moon. So the moon is here, this little symbol, and I look at what's around it, if there's a planet close to it, and then directly opposite of it. It's also very, very powerful in astrology. So when it's close to the moon, we call that a conjunction. And if it's opposite, it's an opposition. So let's take that, for instance. And to a lesser degree, you can also use the squares, which in some cases I found could be very much relevant. So let's start, and we're going to talk about first the planet Saturn. So, oh yes, I forgot to tell you, but these are the 5 love languages. I talked about them more in detail in the previous video in part 1. So we have words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, physical touch, or receiving gifts. And what I've noticed from my deep investigation, underground research, is that when someone has an afflicted moon, which again is very widely spread, sadly, I found that the physical touch, let's say you have a moon in Leo, for instance, and usually moon in Leo is very physical. If it's part of the archetype of your moon, if your moon is repressed or afflicted, like we say here in astrology, this component of your needs could be repressed. And I found that oftentimes the first that is repressed is the physical touch. And we'll get to that later. And I have another theory that also receiving gifts could be a little bit repressed if you do have an afflicted moon. So just keep that into consideration here as we go through what we have here. So, and usually in Vedic or more traditional astrology, they consider Saturn as being the most detrimental affliction to the moon, but there are others. But I'm going to use like a special technique here from my observations. So Saturn, and the symbol is also in the little round here. So if you do have Saturn close to your moon, or in opposition, or to a lesser degree the square, this is probably the first one that shows that you have an afflicted moon. So your moon is not going to express itself as smoothly as it should because of lacks of affection in the childhood. So, and there's a plethora of possibilities. So I'm going to name a few here. So usually you can see that the child receive a lack of affection or a lack of emotional closeness. So coming from parents that are, let's say, emotional immature or narcissistic people, for instance. It can also be one parent is cold, not showing affection to the child, one or both. Just keep that in mind, because the moon usually is the mother, but it can also be one of the two parents. It can also be one parent that was absent or unavailable, and physically or emotionally. Just keep that in mind. Or it could be both parents being absent or unavailable. Also, it could be that one parent was playing the role of both parents and therefore was less present for the child because had a lot of stress on their shoulders. So that could, I've seen that in a few charts. So also I've seen a father that is absent with either a conjunction or opposition to Saturn, someone that was abandoned by their father. I've seen in cases being disowned by their father, or the parenthood was denied. Or I've seen also that the individual that has Saturn influence on their moon have learned to play a parental role quite early. Either, and usually that's both, either they had to develop parental skills or being an adult very early in their life. And in some cases, also they come themselves in turn become parents early in their lives. So have heavy responsibilities early on. So this is what I found with Saturn in relationship to the moon. And then when it comes to Pluto, so Pluto has a very different influence than Saturn has. And here, of course, the conjunction and opposition are going to be the strongest one, but also you can also look at the square. So conjunction again is when it's close to the moon or opposite the moon. This is an opposition. So the moon is a bit tricky because, or Pluto rather, because Pluto deals with trust. And with the moon, there could be like a lack of trust and difficulty to achieve physical and emotional intimacy due to traumatic experiences in childhood or singular experience in childhood. So Pluto can be connected to all sorts of abuse, kind of power dynamics. So having power over someone, like an unfair power dynamic, that is. One parent could have been manipulative, violent, controlling, overpowering, over controlling. One parent, and often the mother, because we're talking about the moon, could have been a victim of abuse, sexual abuse, violence. So if that's the case, then even if you don't have any contact with the mother, of course, this is going to still be in your genetic blueprint, right? Because we can see that in astrology and in psychology as well. So, and of course, there are ways to get out of that and to heal that. I just want to mention. So don't worry, but still, you're going to have to work with it. And that's part of the, I believe, the path that you chose in order to awaken and to then in turn be able to heal and help other people deal with that too. So, also, the individual that has a conjunction opposition to Pluto can have been a victim or abuse or sexual abuse, and that can also be in past lives. So important to notice that if you know that it wasn't the case for you, it could very well be also connected to your past life's history. And then in the case of a conjunction to Pluto, so the moon and Pluto together, close in the birth chart, and I know a few there that pass their whole life in therapy, which is probably one of the best things to do with a close Pluto. Pluto is the planet of therapy, of transformation, of deep psychological transformation, of transmuting stuff, or it's the planet also that is the ruler of Scorpio. It's the phoenix rising from its ashes, but it needs work. It needs a lot of death and rebirth in the life of the individual. But the positive is that they themselves, in turn, oftentimes can become the greatest therapists because they're going through their own healing process and they put the efforts in it and they go through their own therapy. So in turn, they can make really great helpers, official or unofficial therapists for other people. Also another, which is not traditionally an affliction, but I will put this in my list because I've seen some patterns here with the people I know. So an opposition to Venus. So, and I'm gonna show, I think I do have one here so that you can see. Is it here? Is it here? Okay, we have, no, this is not the one that I wanted. Okay, I'll get back to that. Anyways, an opposition to Venus, that can be, and I've seen that as I said, with a tough relationship with the mother, that the mother can be very distant, very emotionally detached, or it's tough to enter a connection with the mother because the mother sees, and I've seen that especially with daughters, like women connection, that they see their daughters like as a reflection of themselves that they don't want to see. So sometimes the mother is kind of pushing away the daughter. And for that reason, oftentimes the divine feminine realm in the life of the daughter has to be explored on their own. So the relationship with women in general, because in turn the relationship with the mother becomes relationship with other women, could be more challenging. But in the example that I saw, I didn't see that it affected relationship with other women because um, they did a lot of therapy regarding that relationship to the mother. So if it's worked on, I believe it could be the individual could still have like a healthy relationship with other women, but that can be more challenging if it's not worked on. Also, you can see lack of affection from the mother, a distant mother. The mother could have also rejecting one of the roles. So the wife mother role on one part, the moon, and the lover role, which is Venus. So maybe like the woman was conflicted, the mother, and didn't know how to integrate both. So could have been rejecting one role, which could be in turn problematic, or you can have inherited this from the mother. Also, the people with moon opposition to Venus could very much fear the rejection. So that can be a very sensitive wound for them. And usually they learn how to be a people pleaser very young because of, let's say, either problematic parents or emotionally immature parents or unhealthy environments. So they learn how to be a people pleaser in order to make their needs secondary and to make, let's say, the needs of their caregiver in the first place. So this is what they understand as a pattern. How to be loved is putting other people's needs before their own. So of course, this is not really good because they're running on an empty battery. So that it's necessary for them to, first of all, see that pattern and then release it. And then other afflictions to the moon that I've observed. An opposition to Mars, I've seen that many times, especially with women, that they will give away their power to a strong masculine, or they are a little bit of the damsel in distress archetype. So they are willing to, give their power away to someone or masculine in order to feel safe. Or they are attractive, more assertive, strong, so that can be good. And sometimes not so good, controlling / abusive partners. So I've seen that a couple of times, so I'm just putting that here. And of course, if that's the case, if it goes more on the unhealthy side of things, it has an impact on your love languages. So that's why I mentioned it here. And other things that I've seen, a moon that's in conjunction, so close to Chiron, which is an asteroid, not a planet, but still, I found that it has like a very deep effect on the moon. And or an opposition, so the moon opposite Chiron. So usually it gives like a feeling of inadequacy to the individual, lower self-esteem, maybe that they think that their own emotional needs don't matter so much. So again, they will put other people's needs before their own. So that can be a pattern. They could feel not worthy of love really deep down. And oftentimes I've seen that they have inherited the unhealed wounds of the mother, the moon, and i.e. lack of confidence, low self-esteem. So that's inherited from the mother. And lastly, and that's not such a big deal, but I'm just going to mention it here because from my research, again, I've seen that it does have an effect on the love languages and the way that we show and receive love. I've seen several people that were born on a full moon. So that means they have moon opposite sun. So if you do have that in your birth chart, it means that you were born on a full moon, which is not a bad thing at all. But since the moon represents the mother and the sun represents the father, oftentimes what I've read and what I've come to agree upon is that oftentimes at the moment of the birth of the child, the parents could have been having arguments, so not getting along. So we know that on a very unconscious level, the child feels it, maybe doesn't feel welcome, doesn't feel wanted, and will develop some behaviors in order to be loved, in order to get their emotional needs met naturally. It's a survival mechanism. So this is what I've seen, and everybody that I know that was born on a full moon did experience that. So let me know in the comments below if you do feel that as well, and if all of that I said resonates with you. And I put here, to a lesser degree, the sun and the moon in square could be just tension between parents, but like I feel like that could be normal also. All right. So next, I just want to say that if you resonate with one of or multiple parts of what I just mentioned of the afflicted moon, I suggest, and this is my personal suggestion, of course, to dive deep into therapy with it, the therapy that you feel comfortable with. Because unless you don't see the source of those behaviors, of those wounds, and they keep acting out in your unconscious, in your shadow, in your blind side, you will keep doing, let's say, unhealthy patterns for yourself when it comes to relationships. So it really has the potential to affect your entire life until it is addressed, released, and that you can carefully disassociate it with your self, your true self, and you can really see it for what it is, which is um, unfortunate conditions that you've inherited from your caregivers, your family, your environment. Only then you're going to be able to liberate yourself and live in alignment with your true self. And yes, this is what I'm doing right now. So I feel very comfortable in talking to you about it right now. And just before we continue with my examples, and I have really good examples of people around me that have lived with afflicted moons. I just wanted to say that we have a very timely activation, especially for that topic. And we're going to use the portal of Mother's Day to send love to our mother-daughter relationship through deep theta healing, so meditative state, sound healing, and intention setting. So we're going to all send love and healing. And we, of course, invite you to join us. I think this is going to be such a powerful practice with Elena and myself. And I think that as you notice through this video, the relationship you have with your mother, even though they might not be still in this reality, will affect all of your other bonds, relationships. So it's so important, so pivotal. And sometimes it's also working on forgiveness. Sometimes it's working on releasing things that were not ours to carry. And I believe that if we work individually on uh, healing our relationship to our mother, whether it's already positive or not so much, I believe we can so much make a difference in the world. So I think this is going to be so amazing. And of course, we're going to do that in a group. We're going to do that live. So it's going to activate on the whole planet such positive light codes. So be there. It's going to be very, very powerful, very, very beautiful, I believe. We're going to go live on May 9th, but of course, if you're watching this video after, you're going to be able to join on replay. This is going to be a timeless activation to really help with everything that we're talking here with the state of your moon in your birth chart. Even though you might have lived through difficult conditions, it's time to liberate yourself from ancestral trauma, ancestral patterns, and dissociate it from that. So yes, and we do have a special discount code until May 7th only, so for a week only still, which is Mother's Day in one word, to get 15% off. So it's a very affordable activation, but very profound, only $22 with the discount, so very affordable. All right, and I'll put the link down below. So I wanted also to continue by talking about what it's going to do with your birth chart. So the effects of that afflicted moon, because we talked about the causes, but what are the effects now? So what I noticed is that people with afflicted moon, so moon that are in a more difficult position in their birth chart, such as mentioned before, so close to Saturn, opposite Saturn, and so forth, they tend to repress the physical expression part of their needs, even if that's part of their moon archetype. This is what I found. And again, this is my personal research. And because I believe that on a very unconscious level, they associate physical closeness with not safe. This is not safe. And again, this is not your fault if that's your case, because it's a defense, a normal defense mechanism when growing up in an unsafe environment. So your, let's say, inner protection is saying, don't let anyone so close in an emotional intimacy or physical intimacy, because then you're not going to be safe. So, of course, that needs to be worked with. But what I've observed is that, let's say, um, people that had physical touch very high in their archetype of their moon sign, if they have an affliction to their moon, so let's say Saturn close to their moon, for example, that's oftentimes like one of the last one they like to receive love as a love language. And again, this is part of my theory, so I'd like to know what you think down below in the comments. And again, what I've seen too is that they can also feel uncomfortable in receiving gifts, because they can unconsciously, again, associate that as a tactic to be either manipulated, or they see that there are strings attached, or that the other is trying to implement a unfair power dynamic here. So they will usually shy away from this expression also of their moon, even though it might be part of their healthy moon archetype. And I noticed that in many cases of people living with afflicted moon, they tend to revert to their sun for their emotional needs rather than their moon. So that's what is so fascinating about this. And again, this is my personal research, my personal theory. So let me know if you do agree with that. And we're going to see examples of that. So instead of taking your moon sign and your moon placement to determine your love languages, they will revert to their sun. The moon is the emotional needs, and the sun is more of the identity that we construct in this lifetime. So the sun feels safer because it's something that we have control over, whether the moon feels a little bit more vulnerable. So it's the moon feels less safe. So this is what I've noticed, and especially with the physical touch part of the love languages. So let's look at examples. So as you can see, this is an example from someone I know. She has moon with Chiron. So usually, as we said previously, it can be like something she's inherited from her mother as a lack of confidence of her herself, feeling that she doesn't have enough self-esteem to pursue her true emotional needs, even though her moon is so what I found with her, and I'm just gonna tell the chart. I have so many things to say. I feel passionate about this subject, as you can see. So she has also an opposition to Saturn. And this is quite, let's say, 7 degrees, but I notice that we can take a bigger orb for this kind of operation. So yes. And with her, okay, let's take her example. So her moon is in Gemini. So the primary expression as love language would be words of affirmation. And then her secondary moon in the 8th house would be physical touch. But when she did the test, physical touch came in second to last. So very low in her list of love languages, because I believe the Saturn repressed this, having a parent that doesn't show enough physical proximity, emotional. And I believe it has to do also with the mother who let's say, carried on, maybe unconsciously, her lack of self-esteem to this individual, this birth chart, because the daughter, or this individual who has this birth chart, thinks that she always needs to put the other's needs before her own. So I think she's living on a very low love thing most of the time, and therefore has put this need very far behind. Another example here. So we have a moon, and as you can see, Saturn is quite distance, but still in the same sign. So it's like 12 degree apart, but still very, very much activated, unfortunately, here. And what I saw is that she has an opposition to Venus, but also an out of sign. No, not out of sign. Also in the same sign with Chiron. So both the moon opposites Venus and Chiron. And in her case, she has a very cold, detached mother that was criticizing her, that was jealous of her. So we see that the mother is very far, very distant because she didn't like the mirror that her daughter would give to her. She would feel lesser than when she looks at the daughter, who is like a great person, right? And so the Saturn here, close to the moon, shows that she was deprived of physical affection from an early age. And also just the moon placement in Aquarius usually is more like um, intellectual rather than emotional as a mother or caregiver. So she was deprived of that physical affection. She spent lots of years in therapy, and but to her, to her, how do we say that? Honor. She has great relationship with women because she worked on it quite a lot, and because also she has a lot of friends Aquarius. So for her, let me get back to my notes here. Um, yeah, okay. So since the moon is afflicted, she reverts to her sun oftentimes for her needs in terms of love languages. And let's look at her sun. So sun is in Virgo, so her primary love language is indeed acts of service, but also moon in Aquarius, the primary love language is also acts of service. So that correlates. But also the love languages that would be second with the sun would be here fifth house, so would be physical touch, but because she has a repressed moon, the physical touch element comes second to last in her case too. And let's go back to the one we were before because I forgot to talk about the sun. So since the moon is afflicted opposite to Saturn and close to Chiron, I see that oftentimes she reverts to her sun in terms of needs. So if she were to be, let's say, defined by her moon in terms of love languages, then she would be primary words of affirmation, and secondary, she would be physical touch, which is repressed in her case. So sun in the sixth house, first of all, is well, sun in Aries, first of all, words of affirmation, and second of all, is in the second house, in the sixth house. What am I saying? Sixth house is acts of service. And in her case, she's acts of service first, and then words of affirmation. So you can see how her sun is taking more of a prominent role in her emotional needs than her moon because it is being afflicted. And okay, I wanted to talk about this example too. So here, another beautiful divine feminine that I know has her moon conjunct Pluto. Even though it's a wide orb, so a big distance between both in the same sign, it's still very much activating her moon. So she had a very, let's say, dodgy past. Like it's she was adopted, so abandoned by her primary caregivers. And then she had like an adoptive mother, which is amazing. But since Pluto is here, it's really talking about her biological mother, which was maybe manipulative, controlling, lying, which are the bad sides of Pluto. And she confirmed that's the case. And I said to, I believe maybe also she was a victim of abuse by the dad. And she said, yes, that's very much what happened in her opinion. And she was born at a full moon, as you can see, because her moon is opposite her sun. And she confirmed too that her parents were not getting along at all when she was born. And her mother even told her father that the baby died. So as you can see, lots of mysteries here around that. Um, And maybe another one here, another example. So as you can see here, we have another afflicted moon. Moon and Saturn are very close here. And in this case, it's because the father is absent. So she was made, I don't know how to say that. She was born out of a sperm bank with a mother that wasn't finding a partner. So she used a sperm bank in order to have a donor. So the individual here of the chart doesn't know their father. So you can see that although the mom is amazing and gives her everything that she needs, we can see that Moon, Saturn can talk about absent father. And yes, she will have to probably do therapy and work on that in order to have her needs met. And in that case, the sun will probably become prominent in terms of emotional needs. So, sun in Gemini, words of affirmation, and sun in the ninth house, quality time. Although the moon can also, because moon in Pisces is not physical touch, but there are also receiving gifts. So, that receiving gift part could be repressed for her because of this afflicted moon, because usually people have problems receiving when they have this afflicted moon. And to end this research, since I couldn't find like a lot of people who absolutely love receiving gifts, I was like, it's probably cultural. But here in Canada, like, or maybe people don't want to admit it that they like to receive it. I don't know. So let me know down below what you think, if it's something more cultural in your opinion, or if you do appreciate receiving gifts, let me know what your moon sign and house placement is. I want to know. But I was like, okay, let's say who's a public figure that would love to receive gifts? And I was thinking about Anna Nicole Smith, because she's a famous, sugar baby. I don't know. We don't know if it's true, but whatever. She was married to an older guy, an older rich guy. So I looked at her chart, and yes, she has an afflicted moon because she has a moon opposite Saturn. So probably, and I don't know much of her personal background, but probably issues with the father, either distant or she didn't give like the affection by the father figure that she needed, probably. And let me know if you know more about her personal history than I do. But also, what I found interesting is that Moon in Libra, the primary love language of that is it is words of affirmation and then receiving gifts. So for her, it is still, I believe it was still very much activated. And plus, she has Venus, the plants of gifts, next to her moon. So I believe this is probably a very true for her. So let me know what you think. I'm very curious to see what is your personal experience with this information. If you could also let me know if you do resonate with what I've just shared. And if you do make sure that you hit the like button. I put a lot of love into these videos, and I hope you can get all the value that you need out of those videos to continue your self-growth journey and have answers to your questions. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.